Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. It is Angela, the Traveling Crafter, and I'm here with another in the series leading up to our 100-day challenge ATH around the house. And while this is geared for beginners, I am hopeful that some of my YouTube friends will also be participating so that you can get all kinds of inspiration on found items just lying around your house that you can use in order to create a junk journal. So yesterday what we did is we went through basics. What is a junk journal? What are the elements of a junk journal, and how do you use a junk journal? And today we're going to talk about the bare minimum that you need to create a junk journal, as well as some really nice to have items that you might consider, and then some pure indulgences that just make your life easier and are kind of fun to play with. So let's get started. What you see in front of me, well, minus this, I put my scissors aside. There you go. You can create a junk journal with just what you see in front of me. Now, these are my essentials, and this is what I would always recommend no matter what. So let me just explain. First of all, it's probably obvious, but scissors are a good thing to have. Now, let's just assume we already got the paper. I've got a big stack of paper we're going to play with in a second. So you need good scissors, and I just got done, and I threw it away. Oh, here. I use aluminum foil to punch something we're not going to, when I have punches, and I use those to sharpen my punches, but I also use them for my scissors. These I got either at an auction or I think at an auction maybe. And, yes, I could use these. These are my fabric scissors, but these are my go-to. They were cheap, but they are sturdy and they're old. So that's what I use. But any old pair of scissors will work. And if you need to sharpen them, use the aluminum foil. Number one item. Number two item, you might need some glue. Now, this is just a Staples glue stick. I got these in a bundle at a consignment store, so I'm using these up. My favorite is, let me see if I have it, a stick of it handy. I'm not sure. It is called, it's 3M. Ooh, I might be all out. That's a travesty. Hold on. Yeah, I think I'm all out. Panic attack. Well, it's Scotch Creative. So, that's my favorite one. Now, I will tell you, you can use any kind of glue that you see fit, that you have around the house, Elmer's, whatever, a glue gun. I personally don't love glue sticks. I use glue in a bottle. This happens to be something called Fabrifix. This is a nice to have. You do not need it. You don't need this bottle, and you don't need this kind of glue. But that's just my go-to so that you know. So we got scissors. We've got glue. We've got a ruler. This ruler will help us not only rule, but it will help us do a lot of other things like tear and score and all kinds of fun things. You'll need a pencil or a pen or both because you just do. You need it for pretty much everything, so why not have it? Some people would argue that the next three items are not essential, but to me, they are. And I find that I use them. I don't use a stapler daily, but I use everything else daily. And if you want to create a journal with very few items, and this is all you got, a stapler will do it. And it's going to attach all of your pages together. So stapler is essential. And then I do not go anywhere without this specific tape, but you don't have to have this kind, but some kind of adhesive tape. So this is, it's called 3M Micropore Athletic Tape, or Med Tape. And it's very durable, and this is just what I had here. So I use it every day. And then the last thing I also use every day is my box knife. Now, is this kind of utility knife the type that you should have? No. You can have you know, a X-Acto knife works just as well. But I think that it helps, you know, if these are the only essentials that you have, you can find these easily. You can find them at garage sales, thrift shops, that kind of things if you don't have them in your house, especially like a utility knife. You might even be able to find one in your garage, quite likely. This was Dave's and I commandeered it. So let me explain. So we've got these items. We have nothing else, and we have paper. Now, if paper is an assumption, we've got it, okay? So I've got these, I've got some dictionary page. Okay, so we'll just fold those in half, and then we're creating, remember, we talked about this in the last video, we're creating a signature, so we're just adding our pages together and folding them in half. That probably would need to come off, but we're not going to worry about it right now. Okay, I got this one. Okay, we got a bunch of pages, papers. Here's another one. I might be getting too thick for my little wussy stapler. And let's just say this is a piece of cardstock. So let's just use this as our cover. Okay. So now we know that that's too long. So the first thing that we can do without any problem whatsoever is we just flip this out a bit and pull that off, and voila, our cover is done. Now you see that it's also not real even either at the top or the bottom. So I like that kind of like this. So this is not a cutting mat, so I'm going to use this. So again, I'm going to use my ruler. I'm going to butt it right up to the top of what my cover is, if you will. And I'm going to bust out my box knife, and I'm just going to slice several times because my book is moving. Hopefully I won't cut my finger off while we're talking. That would be not good. I do have my Landon is here in case he has to take me to the hospital. Okay. That last one off there. Now we've just shored up our journal there, and we might want to do the same on the inside. So what I'm going to do is take off the cover, and I'm just going to make these pages just a smidgy smaller than the outside of the cover, just because that's how most of mine usually are. My cover is a little bit bigger than my interior signatures. And I've just taken this off. It's a little harder to do with my book pages. A book would be good too, because if you got a book, you can use it as your cutting mat if that's all you got. Okay, so now it's a little bit bigger than, well, now I need to refold it. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Now, in a real world where I had a good stapler, which this is not, so I don't think it will work, what I could do is on a hard surface, not on more paper, but I'm going to do it on paper, is I would just turn this over like this, and I would staple. I bet it's going to go into the notepad. That's okay. You get the gist. Staple and staple. Look, it's hooked to my book. That's okay. Now it's hooked in there. We're going to have to do a little surgery here. Let me show you what we're going to do. Wow, I really got it in there good. I knew that would happen, but okay, so where's my, I can barely see my staples. I'm just going to take the end of my scissors because that didn't, and make sure I know you can't see that because I can barely see it. I'm just pressing down those edges, so it's now hooked together. I didn't do that very well, but you get the gist. I would do it much easier, but now you got a journal, and you didn't even use the glue or the tape, but it's there if we need it because we might need it in a minute, right? So now we've got our journal together, and Do I have any magazine? Let's just pretend. Let's pretend for a second. Let's pretend the sticker came out of a magazine and I didn't have a sticky on it. So I would just use my glue stick, stick things down. Let's see, do I have anything that's here? This is kind of, I mean, it's not really like it, but yeah, we'll just stick this in there. And let's just say this was a scrap of paper that we had. Now it is a scrap. And I want to just, maybe I just want to hide. Maybe I want to collage on this and just hide all this instead of tear it off. I don't know. That comes right off. Does Made in India come off? Sure it does. Maybe. So let's just say, you know, I am the traveling crafter, so I always have to talk about traveling crafts. But let's just say that you are on a trip and you wanted to kind of document your travels, but you didn't have anything to document it on. And you remember every time you travel, because you've watched my channel before, that if you have just the essentials, which these are some of them, then you could make a journal. You've now made yourself a traveler's notebook. You can put your receipts in there, little pictures of yourselves, whatever you want. And voila, there you go. Now, I have this piece of scrap paper. All of this came out right out of my scrap bin. So maybe I want to cut this off and pop it on. This is all I got, right? So use your glue stick. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of glue sticks. I always have one with me, but it's not my favorite. There's a time and a place for it. This was a perfect time for it. So we just stick that on there, and so on and so forth. And you just keep adding to it. Okay? Those are your essentials. A lot can be done with those few items, and sometimes less is more, because it forces you to search your house for things like we're going to be doing in the upcoming weeks, and to, you know, go through that hotel room or down to the, you know, hotel lobby and see what you can find that you can, you know, use in a junk journal. So those are it. Tape, glue, stapler, pen and pencil, knife, this thing, ruler, scissors, okay? Now, if you are, we're going to say these are still must-haves. If you are going to be creating journals in which you want to sew in a signature. Do I have one where my signatures are sewn in handy? Is this one sewn in? I think this one is. Is it? Yes. Okay, so sewn in signatures. Let me see if I can find the middle of one. I love this one. I love any. 4th of July is one of my favorite holidays. I'm trying to find the middle. Oh, I might have covered it up. Did I? No. Maybe, did I not sew this in? Well, a sewn in signature kind of looks like this. I think this is the center. No? I have no... Oh, this was an old magazine. That's why. How did I put this together? Well, normally you would find the middle of it and you would sew it in. You'd poke 3 holes and sew it, and which we will be doing, and I'll show you in another video. Actually, the next video. But you will need a couple of items. 3 items to be exact. Actually, I might just show you how to do it right now. Because why not? Those staples are not going to stay in there. So you are going to need some kind of thread. I got something I thought most people would have in their house, and that is embroidery floss, mostly because it was very handy and right near me. So all you need is to figure out the length of it, and you need 3 times that much. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm sure I have more than enough. Okay, so you need some embroidery floss. You also need something to poke with. Now, I have this highly technical name, pokey tool. I make these, and if you are on my live sales, you've seen me sell these before. You need something to poke through to make the holes in which we can sew it. This is much thicker. This is called an awl, not an owl, but just think owl with an A, A-W-L. You could use one of these. You could use, I don't know, just think about, you could use a skewer. You could use, I'm trying to think of other things. A tack. Yeah, there's a couple items. And it's something to poke a hole with. And then you are going to need a needle. Now, this needle is large. This is like, I don't even know what kind of, maybe an, what kind of needle would this be called? I don't know. Big one. I think you use this for like, maybe not embroidery, but something, some kind of thing. Oh, if you know, please share in the comments. And be sure, and like I said before, ask questions. If you have questions, feel free to ask them. We're just going to use this awl, not the fancy one that I made, because not everybody has one of those. But again, or ice pick, you know, this kind of looks like an ice pick. You can find these in, maybe in your garage. Now, again, I can still feel that I must have totally missed that staples. Now remember, this is already stapled, but we can barely even see them. So all we're going to do in order to sew this together, it's folded. I hold it down like this. If these weren't already adhered, I would clip it with something. Paper clip, whatever. And you're just going to poke a hole through it. That's really not going to be in the center because, again, and these holes are going to be way too big because this awl is a big mama. There we go. There's 2 holes. Again, you're going to do much better and much more exact measurements when you're doing this in the real world. But for this example, we're doing it like this. Now, if you want your strings, all these dangly strings, to be hanging inside when we're done, then start in the middle. If you want your strings on the outside, maybe you're going to hide them when you're done, start on the outside. And you'll see why in a second. So you pull this through. You then hold. You got your thread held with your one hand. And you're going to come up through one side, whichever one you... Whoop, see, I told you the holes are too big. But it's easier to get it done, huh? You're going to come up. You're not going to go back in here. You're going to go all the way over here to pull that tight. You see where we're going with that? And now you're going to take this up through the middle again. However, do you see how that's coming up and it's on this side of that string? We want it to be on that side of the string. And we want to make sure, because especially with this embroidery floss, I don't want to split that embroidery floss, because if you are familiar, embroidery floss has 6 individual pieces of floss that makes up the one piece of embroidery floss, because you use, sometimes in certain projects, you don't use all 6 of them. You take them apart. So if you put it right up the middle of that, it's going to pull and separate those, and your binding will not be tight enough. Does that make sense? So you want to make sure it's on, there's 1 string on this side and 1 string on this side. And then you're going to just make sure they're pulled really tight, but not so tight in that you're ripping, because I didn't put any extras. I didn't put eyelets in here because remember, this is all we got. That's all we got. We don't have all those extra things. So don't pull it so tight as that it starts to rip the paper, because you know paper rips, right? Easily. And some of these are fragile. So there you go. And then, you know what? Some people just leave these on here and then they make a dangle. So you could just leave it like that. Now you've got, this is what it looks like there. Now we're doubled up. Okay. We just created a journal with, I'm just going to take the pieces out that we used. What happened to Pokey? That and this. Now, we might as well use that last thing, which was tape. Well, you know, this is homemade and we don't have, you know, it might need extra structure. So we're just going to put a little piece of tape on there just to reinforce it further. If I didn't have that string in the middle, I would probably wrap it all the way around, but I have the string there, so we're going to leave it sturdy as can be. And then maybe we want to use our pen. Now we've used every item to write handmade by Angela 2023. Ta-da! Now we've used all of the essential items. So there you have it. All you need in order to, get it, to create a journal. A journal. Let me put my essentials away, my fancy essentials. And now let's get out a couple nice to haves. Okay, let me clean up after myself. And I'll just talk about some of those things and what they are. Nice to haves. Well, because they're all the way over here. Why are they all the way over here? These are just things that I do take with me on the road when I travel. They are very nice to have. Well, with the exception of one item. But could you get by without them? Absolutely. And I'm just going to use this to kind of show you how some of these things work. Why not? So, excuse me, I need a drink of my tea. Now, some might argue that this is an essential, and I could be swayed, and that is a hole punch. Because, you know, we can use it for many a things, you know, but it isn't absolutely critical that you have it. I mean, you can use a hole punch to make decorations, right? Just to add a little extra. You can use it for all kinds of things. You could use these then and glue them on somewhere else. But it does come in handy. For example, well, here, this is great. This little piece of scratch paper, or not scratch paper. Let's just use this like, now here's just a normal old boring piece of paper. But if I take the edge of it, for example, and just pop out these corners, now it looks like a ticket. So it did. So it's nice. It can add a lot. You can do a lot of different things with it. You can use it to attach a journal, because if all you had was, you know, your hole punch and some string, you could figure it out and tie it together and adhere it some way, right? Okay. The other thing, which I won't play with today, but I do like to have a couple of paintbrushes in. They're nice, just nice to have in my kit. This one, I like the fan because I'm going to talk about a nice to have here in a second, and that's paint. And so you can use this to kind of zhuzh up a page by splattering it. This you can use, like say you had, and you were somehow acquired a napkin that was pretty, and you wanted to cut some of that up and pull it apart and glue it on here, right? You can use this, you can dip it in water, and you can go around the outline to kind of pull that napkin apart. You can use it to paint with. That's a brilliant idea too. You can use it for a lot of other things as well, but those are just a couple real basics, right? The other one that is a nice to have is ink. Now, when I tell you this, I should have prefaced this by saying, when I say they're nice to have or that they're indulgences, that means that there is always an alternative to what you've got. So, you know, this you could get by with. You don't have to have, you know, you might have a makeup brush in your bag or whatever. Use that if you don't have paintbrushes. There's alternatives, but these are nice to have. Ink is also a nice to have. And while we're talking about your makeup brush, you may have makeup. Now, typically what we use ink for, and by the way, you don't need this. You could use a makeup sponge. Man, we're using a lot of makeup items. A makeup sponge. You can use a cotton ball. You can use your finger. And then dip it in that color of makeup and put it on here. But what, in the junk journal world, what happens a lot is, I shouldn't be using this one because it's only used for, this one's fine. To distress, to make something look a little older. Like, for example, this tag, or this ticket. Maybe we want to just make it look older. So we're going to add that to it and grunge it up. And now it kind of pops out a little bit more. But you could do the same thing with a makeup dauber, makeup sponge, and some makeup. Here, let me show you what it looks like on here so you can see. And remember, this is not going to be used as just, this is just demonstration. We're going to probably annihilate it by the time we're done with all the things that we do. But there you get the idea. There are always alternatives. And I've said that before. If you know, go scrounge through your old makeup. I know some of you have done that. You've shared with me that you have. So, it works, doesn't it? That you guys can all say. Let's see. The other thing that, why don't we just finish up talking about punches for a second. The one thing that is really nice to have is a circle punch of some sort. This is just a 1-inch punch, but this will create other things besides just a hole, a circle. Let's see if I can find a piece of scratch paper. I want something that's sturdy-ish. We'll just use this pink one. All right, let's just cut. Well, here, let's just punch a hole. Okay. This is not going to be a very good example because it's tiny, but we can make a tiny little tab. So we fold it in half, and there we go. We just take the ittiest bit off. And we take the ittiest bit off of this side. And now we have, let's zhuzh it up so you guys can see it. But now we have a tab for our journal. That's a baby tab. It's a little one, but hey, that's all we got, right? So we got to work with it. So now we just go over here, find a page, and we take our handy dandy glue stick or glue or whatever it is we got. And we pop it on the top of this page. Tabba-dabba-doo. We're done. I don't know that I got that really enough on there. So now we have a little tab on our page. Oops, I didn't get that. But you get it. There's a tab there. I didn't get enough glue on it. There you go. Now you have a tab. You can use it to trim the edge of the page. Let's see. Let's find a different one here. Here. I don't know. This paper, let's use this. You know, you might want to make this look kind of like a postage stamp. You can do the same with that little one too. If this were a pocket, let's say that you had, well, here, we'll just put a pocket on. Let me find another piece of paper. Here's a piece of paper. This is going to be an extremely eclectic journal, that's for sure, huh? Okay, so we want to make this, we want to stick this on this page and make it into a pocket. So I cut out a piece that just pretend it's really nice and straight and even, unlike this one. And this would be where you could use glue stick, which we're going to use, but ideally it would be easier if you had some Elmer's or any other. I use art glitter glue. I use that on die cuts a lot because it holds really well, and those are usually thicker. I use Fabri-Tac almost always on everything else. Fabri-Tac sticks to obviously fabric. So now we're just going to go thin layer on the edge, and I've kind of got this angled, if you can see. I'm going to go on the top, on the bottom, and on the side, trying to just make sure it gets on there. Okay. And I'm going to pop this on. Ta-done. We have a pocket. Okay? So, it's nice to have a punch. But what if you didn't have one? There's always an alternative, right? Your tape. You could draw around that, cut it out. You could, well, here, we'll just do it. We're just going to go right here. Do that. We're going to make a long, skinny pocket. It's probably not going to be straight at all. Nope, sure isn't. And we're going to cut this out like that. Which is also not straight, but hey. It's fine. Everything's fine. We're just explaining. And I'm only going to zhuzh up the top so you can see that. Oh, is it too long? Here, we'll put it on the back. There you go. And then we pop this on. While I'm gluing this on, the last thing I'm going to talk about is a corner punch. Oops, I didn't do the bottom, did I? Don't follow my lead. Don't do this on your normal piece of paper because you'll find out something will get stuck and then you'll be irritated and then, you know. Oh, goodness gracious. There we go. Okay, done. So your corner rounders, if you want to kind of make things prettier, it's just nice to have it. You can use it to make your corners rounder. Nice to have, not needed, because what do you think? What could you do instead? Take your scissors, round your corners. That easy. But there you go. The other thing that's cool is that you've got your, oh look, we could make this into something pretty and stick it in that pocket. Where's that pocket? There we go. Now it kind of sticks out of there. We could decorate it up. We can also make a tag, right? So let's see. Well, I like to use sturdier. Oh, here. This is from one of our magazines. We're doing this is perfect. It's not really that thick, but you get the gist. Here, I know what we can do. So I like this. It's pretty, right? Let's just make it. I'm going to make this into, well, I need it into a skinnier tag. Let's take off. This is just from a magazine, which wonderful, wonderful thing for you to use for junk journaling. And where are my scissors? Oh, here they are. So all I'm going to do we're just going to pretend that it's already really sturdy paper. It's not, and so I would probably back it. Then I just take my little piece, flip it over, and then that way we assure that almost it's together. Now we take paper punch, and we got a tag to go in right here as well. If we wanted, we could put a little of that embroidery floss in there to make it prettier. Or we just stick it in here for right now. Okay? Alrighty then. Oh, goodness. I'm so sorry. My goodness gracious, where did that come from? All right, let's put our scraps back away. So now we have that pretty tag. And what is left? The last thing I would tell you that I think is really nice to have, but again, not necessary, is a paper trimmer. So this is the paper trimmer I have. And let me just make sure you can see it. It's not going to be all in frame. But, you know, it's a whole lot easier to, I'm just going to try to find a piece of paper here. To measure, cut, you know, with that. The other benefit is with a paper trimmer, you can also use it to do some things that I am going to show you are indulgences, but you can use your paper trimmer to do them as well. So there is that. So I'm going to set this aside. It's just nice. These are just nice to have. They make things go faster. You can do a couple pages at a time. They're a little more spendy, but you can usually find them somewhere where they're not so expensive. And they're really great to have. So let's go on to, the last thing. The paint. Now, these are cheapos. I think I got these at TJ Maxx. I know I did. And I got some metallic ones too. You can tell. But you know what? I'm going to be honest. I have really nice watercolors. I used to do a lot of watercoloring. I've never used them. I use these. And yeah, is the pigment a little off? Yeah. But if you add and keep playing with it, it's fine. So paint is nice to have, whether it's watercolor, acrylic, whatever you want to work with. It's nice to have because you can, do a lot of things. If you don't have ink, you can, of course I don't, yes, I do have water. Of course I have water. You just take some of that brown ink, or brown, what do you call that, paint, and then instead, ooh, I'm not doing a very good job of that. Let's do another one. There we go. Now, I'm going to tell you another thing that I probably should have added on my list of must-haves, and I totally forgot about, because I don't even think, oh, yes, I do. It's a lighter. If you watched our last play date, I said, if I were on a desert island, I would not go without a lighter, because you can do a lot of things. And, you can burn your pages with it. You can sear the ends of your strings with this. So I didn't put it on there, but it might be added to it. I'm just saying. But you get the idea. These are wonderful, wonderful tools to have. Not necessary, but they're nice to have. All right, let's go into indulgences. Now, the first one that is an indulgence, but I use it all of the time. Hang on, I'm going to clear up a couple things. I'm making kind of a mess. Is my Crocodile. Now, this is this on steroids. And so it's got a small, let's see, I'll show you. Here we go. It'll work on here. It's got a small punch, and it's got a medium punch, and then this is your largest punch. But let me add, as while we're talking to punches, the other one that is an indulgence, but I love it because I use it to put like bulb pins or little safety pins and things, is yet another small one. And look how tiny that is. Can you see that? So these are indulgences. You do not need these because you could use a pin to poke that hole that tiny. And you could really get by without this. What this is good for is if you have embellishments like brads, which are, let me show you. Okay, these are eyelets. What you would do with one of these, this is what they look like, is you would pop it in here. So if you happen to have some of those, this would be a good tool to have because it will set it. Otherwise, you would have to use a tool like this. I don't even know if I remember how to use this. I haven't used one for so long. Not that one. But this is let's see, where is it? Oh, might not even have the things for it. Well, There's other ways you can set eyelets, but what you would do is, this isn't the right size. You have to turn this. So it just makes it fast if you have these kind of supplies. But if you're new to junk journaling, chances are, unless you've worked on some other project, you probably don't have these. So not to worry. But it sure is fun to play with. You know, these are the kind of things that really are indulgences, like all these extras. You can make a journal just as beautiful without any of these things. Trust me, I've done it before. I've taught people to do it before, and you guys have seen me do it on here. I'm just looking for the Brads. Oh, Brad. I had this happen the other day. Because I didn't put Brads in the proper spot. This is what a Brad is. You probably know these as paper fasteners, but that's the fancy name for them. You know, they come in all shapes, sizes, colors. We'll just put a really bright, crazy one on here so you can see. This wasn't one of my indulgences, but I just wanted to show you how the punch worked. I can live without any of these other extras that I showed you. There you go. So now you got an eyelet and a Brad. That's what this helps with. It's an indulgence. You don't have to have it. Okay. Another indulgence. Hang on. I'm going to talk about a couple things that are indulgences that I thought I needed and that were dumb. Like, what did I really need that for? There's a lot that I've bought in my lifetime of crafting. Okay, another nice thing to have is, I just got a little one out here. This is an embossing machine. It's called the Sidekick. I think I'm going to get rid of this if anybody is interested in me bringing it to a live sale, because I don't use it. But there's 2 different plates in here, and you can make things pretty by embossing. Let me find a piece of embossed paper. I just did a whole bunch with you guys not so long ago. Where is it? Come to mama. Serious? Serious, serious. Is this embossed? No. Well, apparently I put them away in such a great spot that I can't find any. That's going to drive me crazy. Did I give them all away? Maybe. Oh, well. Anyway, embossing is where you have these little folders. You can put it through there and your paper through there, and it makes it like raised lettering or raised designs. You can also use this if you have something called a die as a die cutting item. So an embossing, total indulgence, fun to play with, not necessary. I have something called a switch, which I oftentimes call a stitch for some reason. I don't know why. But you've probably seen me do videos with it. This is just a tiny portable version. And then a die cutting machine. So that large one would be, you know, like the switch would be a big die cutting machine. That is a die cutting machine. But you've probably seen me, or you probably haven't seen me use it because I don't usually bring it on camera. But I have a Cricut. You've also maybe heard of a Silhouette. Those are die cutting machines. And what they do is, well, the older ones had little cartridges, which I still use mine a lot that way. And then the newer ones hook up to your computer. You figure out what you want to cut out. You program it in, and it cuts it. And then you use it. So it makes die cut items. Total indulgence, not necessary, but it is fun to play with. Oh my goodness. I've been doing too many videos today. All right, and I haven't even been outside except to take the dogs out. So, all right, next one is the one I said, your paper trimmer can replace this. This is called a scoreboard. So what you would do is if you had something you wanted to fold in half, for example, and or had many folds on it, what you would do is you would take something called an embossing or I'm sorry, a bone folder. And some glue on this. I'm trying to get it on. And you would say, okay, I'm making something and I want it scored at 1.5. Oops. Put it back up here. 1.5 inches, 5 inches, and 8 inches. I'm just making that up. So it just gives you a straight line, right? So now can you see that? Now you can fold it. And now you can fold it here. And you can fold it here. And now I have a piece that I can stick in my journal and make it into a pocket, right? Well, not necessary for you to have. Also, I do use it quite a bit, but I also am not one to truly, I'm not a big measurer of items like this. But here's what you can do instead. Let's use that same piece of paper. You get your paper trimmer out. I'm going to pull it up here. Okay. Now let's say if you don't have a scoreboard, you might not have an embossing folder. And that's okay. You can use whatever you got. But what you can do is, let's say we want to give this a little something, something. Now I can put this up here. I'm just going to use these because I know they work. And you find something small, maybe a knife. But if you have it like a, oops, I just knocked you right into next week. Sorry. I'm trying to think of something. I want to use something that you would have, but these seem really sharp. Let's see if these are better. And all you're going to do in here is there's a little groove where your blade of this trimmer goes. And so you just kind of put it up here. And you're going to hold this down, not pressing as hard. I know you can't see it, but I'll show you. With a pair of scissors. Now, my other ones would have worked, but they're just bigger inside. See that? Now there's 2 lines there. So now I've made just like a little folder. So see, you don't need the scoreboard. You just use this if you got one of these. Nice to have, right? Multi-purpose. All right, what else is on my nice to have? Oh, well, I think that having a stamping block and some stamps are just fun. They're indulgent because you don't need them to decorate. You can decorate with all of the things that are found. You can cut things out of magazines. You can do all those things. But if you get a chance to play with some stamps, find some that you can use that are multi-purpose. You can use for tons of different projects and try them out. They're fun. I got a block, I got this, and then I have my ink that I talked about earlier as a nice to have. So those are fun. And the last thing that is fun to play with, because you can use it for, like if you have watercolor that's really wet, you can, kind of blow it around. You can dry your items quickly, is a heating tool. And this is older than the hills. This is from Close to My Heart. I think I have a Stampin' Up! One as well. It gets really hot. I use this when I emboss things. So what you would do is you would put take one of those stamps that I just showed you. You take this solution called clear embossing ink. You put it on a piece of paper. You sprinkle some embossing powdery stuff on it, or glittery looking stuff, and then you turn this on and and it kind of makes a raised, adhered, glittery, or, not always glitter, but for example, you don't need this. If you're not going to emboss and you don't have any of those tools, this isn't necessary, because you know what you can dry your paper with? You know what you can blow different kind of liquids to make, art? A blow dryer. So, nice to have, and not, no, it's not nice to have. It is an indulgence, but it also is very, very fun to play with. Now, let me tell you a couple of things that, okay, well, you can't blame the guy. Tim Holtz, if you watch his like videos when I mean, from a sales perspective, they've got it figured out. They get you excited. They show you the tools. They show you how they work. They make you, they give you all the links that you can go buy the stuff, and you do, right? They show how other people have made it. I'm a sucker. I'm no different, and I taught sales. But here's just a few things that I think I've never used these. This I will use on occasion. I've made things like this. It's called grit paste. Do you know what you can use? You can make your own with, I don't know. I have a recipe, but you can make your own. And you use a little sand or a little salt or a little something. Here's like what embossing with this kind of stuff. And then you put that powder on and blow it. And it turns it into that. This embossing glaze, I bought, I don't know, there's at least 12 colors up here. Do you see where it says glaze? Yeah, it's clear. I hate it. So my tip to you is don't be impulsive. If you are new, all of those don't be an Angela, because I've done it. I bet everybody else that's watching this, if they are, that have been around and have done this for a while, have done the same thing. You buy stuff you don't need. And if you're new, these aren't things that you're going to probably get right away anyway. But I'm going to caution you on, you see people, and maybe me, it might be some of my YouTube colleagues, if you will, and you see them working with French writing or, they work out of a highlights magazine or an ideals book or something like that. What I did that I don't want you to do when I started is I felt like I didn't have anything. And this is why I'm doing this series. So I went to thrift stores so often, and I bought like all the little golden books and, all the things that I was excited to try. And then I had so much crap. I started having live sales. It's not crap, by the way, but I had too much. I had way, way too much. So forget it. Do not go out and buy it. Think to yourself first. Wow, that's a cool tool Angela or said YouTube artist is using. What do I have that's similar? What could I use to alter it into looking like or similar to before you go out and buy a lot of those extra things? So that is my advice. Those are the tools. And here is the process. The next video, I will come back and we will be creating a couple of journal covers that you can then use as we go through the 100-day challenge ATS around the house. And then you'll be ready. You already know how to do signatures. You know how to sew them in. And now we can just start creating all these things from items that we find around our humble abode, if you will. So join me tomorrow and we will start making covers the very easy way. Until next time, friends, remember to take time to just be, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.